When you're thinking about adding a professional-grade station to a home or a tiny shop, the first question is usually, will this actually work for me, or am I just spending money on a fancy piece of furniture that ends up gathering dust? That hesitation is real, especially when the price tag is higher than a regular vanity and the product promises a built-in sink, LED lighting, and a bunch of storage. I'm going to walk through how the DIR Barber station with sink actually fits into everyday life, what you get for the money, and which kind of buyer will feel comfortable pulling the trigger. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, let's set the stage for the kind of space this thing is meant to live in. The DIR station is essentially a 3-in-1, a wall mount mirror, a freestanding vanity countertop, and a cabinet that houses a small sink. It's aimed at barbers, stylists, or even serious DIY haircare enthusiasts who need a dedicated spot to cut, wash, and style without hopping between separate stations. In a typical home-based barbershop, you might have a regular bathroom sink, a separate chair, and a tabletop for tools. That setup forces you to move a client back and forth, wastes time, and can feel cramped. The idea behind a combined station is to eliminate that back and forth by putting everything you need within arm's reach. From a practical standpoint, the biggest advantage I noticed is the built-in sink. It's not a full-size vanity basin, but it's large enough to hold a washcloth, a bottle of shampoo, and a handheld sprayer without splashing all over the floor. For a freelance barber who does at-home appointments, that means you can wash a client's hair, rinse, and then move straight to cutting without pulling a portable bucket or setting up a second chair. The plumbing is simple enough that most people with basic DIY skills can hook it up to an existing faucet line. You just need to cut a hole in the countertop and run a short hose to the sink. It's not a plug-and-play unit, but the installation instructions are clear and the necessary hardware comes in the box. If you're comfortable with a screwdriver and a bit of pipe tape, you can have it up and running in a weekend. Lighting is another area where the DIR station tries to stand out. The LED strip built into the mirror provides even illumination that mimics daylight, which is a real help when you're trying to see fine lines in a haircut or subtle color changes. I've tried a few cheaper mirrors with built-in lights, and they tend to create hot spots or a yellow cast that makes color work tricky. The DIR's LEDs are cool, they stay on at a consistent brightness, and there's a simple switch on the side of the mirror, no dimmer, but the default setting is bright enough for most tasks without being harsh on the eyes. For a stylist who does both cutting and coloring, that steady light reduces the guesswork you usually get from a bathroom bulb that flickers when you turn it on. Storage is where the station's design really tries to be useful. The cabinet offers a few dedicated slots for a blow dryer and 2 curling irons, plus additional shelves for shampoos, conditioners, and scissors. In practice, that means you can keep the most frequently used tools right on the station instead of stashing them in a separate drawer. I tested it with a standard professional blow dryer that's about 10 inches long, and it fits snugly in the designated slot without wobbling. The curling iron holders are also sized for typical 1-inch barrel tools. If you use a larger barrel, you might have to rest it on the countertop. The shelves are open, so you can see everything at a glance, a small but nice psychological boost when you're juggling appointments. Now let's talk about the trade-offs. The first one is size. The countertop stretches about 4 feet across, which gives you generous space for a clipper, a cape, and a small laptop if you need to pull up reference photos. However, that also means you need a decent amount of floor space. In a cramped bathroom or a narrow hallway, the station can dominate the room, leaving little room for a client chair to move around comfortably. If you're living in a studio apartment, you might have to sacrifice a piece of furniture to make it fit. Second, the mirror is wall-mounted rather than freestanding, which is great for saving countertop space, but it limits how low you can adjust it. The mount is fixed at a height that works well for most adult clients, but if you frequently cut children's hair or do close-up facial work on someone seated lower, you'll find yourself leaning forward more than you'd like. The mirror itself is solid glass, which feels sturdy, but there's no tilt mechanism, so you're stuck with the angle the installer sets it at. Another practical consideration is durability. The cabinet is made of engineered wood with a black laminate finish that looks sleek. In a high-traffic salon,